everyone. Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to part two of the art of coaching and giving feedback remotely. Sorry, let me just tone down my volume for my other screen. How is everyone doing? I hope you're all in good mood. I am because for the past 2 weeks, I've been enjoying some levels of liberty since the economy has been opening up. Travel has been relaxed. Planning to do a trip with some friends next week. So I hope things uh, do well. And we're very excited because it's going to be Christmas soon. And you know that during Christmas, get to experience some holiday, more time with our family, lots of gift giving. So I hope you're also in those good mood. Before I start, may I please request an exclamation mark from the chat box from our participants? So I'm looking at the chat box. Give me an exclamation mark if you are ready to start. Would love to see that. So Jade Alforque says hello from Bulacan. We also have some folks. Q Lapis says good afternoon. And we have some folks tagging their friends. Christine Garcia, thank you for joining. RS is there. Thank you for joining. We haven't talked for quite a while, so we have to schedule that soon. Eileen Dungao says good afternoon, watching from Taguig. Min Tant Aung says, hello, hi sir, thank you for joining our session. If it's your first time to join us, do note that we are available not just on Facebook, but also on LinkedIn and YouTube. Just type in the search box my name, and it's the first thing that will come out. So we hope that you get to also follow and subscribe our social media channels. Also, if you haven't yet given us a like, look at the screen, give us a like, give us a heart. We will appreciate that. It's the only thing that we're going to be requesting in exchange for this free webinar so that we get to be exposed to more participants like you. And we all know that it's all about the social media algorithm. So we hope if you could please, I'm begging you guys, give us more likes, give us more hearts. We will appreciate that in the chat box. Very good. Thank you. Hans Ocariza says hello from LinkedIn. Nelsa Soliven also says hello from LinkedIn. Thank you for joining our session. This is our company. If it's your first time to join us, our company is JY Consultancy and Ventures Group. We specialize in organizational behavior. So whether it be about public speaking, business writing, motivation, and leadership, we're the right folks for you. We're here to train and propel your employees to success. And we've done our sessions not only in Southeast Asia, but in many parts of the world. We've done this as far as in Buenos Aires in Argentina, as far as in New York in United States. If you'd like to catch our past webinars, let's say you haven't seen the rest, we got 100 of them and counting that are available on our Facebook page. You're watching from our Facebook page now. So you can go to the live section. You're going to see all 100 plus of them. Or we have an entire list. We have like a menu of food that you'd like to order from. You can scan the QR code or also copy the link from your browser. Okay. Finally, if you'd like to get an optional certificate from this webinar, you can also do that by scanning the QR code or copying the link into your browser. We give certificates for all of the past webinars that we have also conducted. Hans says, good afternoon, watching from Cebu. Sir Galliardo says, thanks, Jonathan, an avid fan here. Thank you. Good morning, says Janine Else. And we have lots of other folks that are tagging their friends to join the webinar. Thank you for doing that. As usual, make sure that you have shared this webinar on your Facebook feed, because if you do, then you are eligible to be called out in our raffle. We are going to give away some tickets to our premium webinars and some prizes from our generous sponsors. The first prize, I will be giving away 5 tickets for our upcoming webinar happening this Saturday. And this is email etiquette and business writing. It's happening on November 20, Saturday, 1 o'clock to 2:30 p.m. That is the weekend batch. The ticket is worth 799 pesos. So if you're interested, please make sure that you are ready to answer our question in the middle of this webinar. Okay? It's going to be inserted, so you have to be attentive all throughout. Okay? I'm also going to be giving away 500 pesos worth of freebies from our sponsor, and that is Also Healthy or OSH. And these are fun flavored snacks, just the way you want your chips to be, but this time they're guilt-free because they are free from preservatives and also from gluten, and they're made from your favorite vegetables and fruits. So, hope you get to catch our contest later. Fastest fingers are going to win. The last thing I'd like to share, sorry, it's going to be a day of so many commercials because we have lots of things to announce. We just launched today the first episode of our podcast, and this is From Grit to Great with no other than my beloved brother, who's an entrepreneur and an architect. The podcast is about sharing career tips on how to propel and navigate through the corporate and the entrepreneurship world. So, episode one is we talk about the things that we miss about the corporate world, about the office. So, I hope you get to listen. Please scan the QR code or copy the link into your browser. We would love you guys to help us be the number one business podcast in the region. Right? And we also thank our partners from Shock in Malaysia for being our producer and the host of this podcast. We've been planning this since September and August this year. So finally, after 2 months, we're able to launch the podcast. So please stay tuned and keep on listening. The podcast is released every Wednesday, every week. Okay, so let's get to business. Enough of all the commercials. 3 things I'm going to be asking from the participants. Keep the chat box as noisy as you can. Participate in the poll and ask a question later on. This is not a recorded webinar. This is a real-time session. So we hope you get to submit and share your questions. It's not just me who's going to be answering. It's also going to be the participants. So you are crowdsourcing advice from other folks. Okay. Leila de Guzman says hello, watching from Laguna. Jorita de Duro says hello to Rose Malia and to Ma'am Jade. Same thing also with Jade Alforque saying hello to Ma'am Jorita or Horita. Thank you for watching us. Eric Bundang says hello, watching from Castillejos in Zambales. Guzman Arwi says watching from Makati while working from home. I love working from home, but I am so ready to finally get out. Be in an office, be in a hotel, be in a plenary session. So I hope you guys are itching for the same thing because it's been a while. A lot of our routines have been disrupted. I want to go back to the normal. I want to be alive again. And I hope that's coupled with the proper observation of safety protocols because the pandemic is still here, guys. Okay? If you have any questions, you can send me an email, jonathanyabut at jycbasia.com. Okay? So today's agenda, remember, it's about remote coaching and remote giving of feedback. So we're going to be talking about 2 things that are happening recently in a lot of organizations. And these are organizations who are making use of written and video recorded feedback. Take note, prior to COVID-19, feedback giving was happening face-to-face. We ask someone to stay put with us in a meeting room or in a private room. It's a one-on-one session, or it could be while you're having lunch or while you're having coffee. But since a lot of us are still quarantined and still working from the safety of our homes, feedback giving has drastically changed in the past 18 months. A big chunk of the people now are doing feedback giving via written forms. Some people are giving a recording of the manager saying something about their employees and sending that video to their folks. You will notice a lot of Silicon Valley companies and startup companies have also been doing that. It's not just because it's an issue of not being able to see someone face to face. It's also an issue of time. It's also an issue of being able to curate what you'd like to say to the person rather than saying it off the bat. So we're going to talk about, are these effective? Does this apply to the Asian setting, to the Philippine setting, to the Malaysian setting, for example? And we're going to share some pros and cons if these types of feedback giving are effective. Okay, so let's talk about the first one. So here's the story. John, most companies traditionally discuss their 2021 performance evaluation face-to-face. But my company shares it as a written document, itemized per project and issue. So it's already November. By now, many companies and organizations are doing their annual evaluation because they do this at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, or the first quarter of the year. So the question now is, my manager sends it to me via email with HR copied because they have to be observers and tells me, if you have any questions, let me know. What do you think, Jonathan, of this type of feedback giving? Can I get a letter W in the chat box? Is there anyone here who has experienced an organization wherein feedback giving is done in a written manner? So written meaning it could be 3 to 5 pages long. So there's a rating of numbers, but there are also sentences and paragraphs to justify why the person is getting this score. I want to see from the participants. Jabi says hello, just dropping by to say hello. Okay, thank you, Jabi. I'm sure you're going to be leaving soon. Okay, wow. Okay, so I see some letter W. So normally, most companies have both. They have the written portions, but they also have explanations. So it's a one-on-one meeting, could be 1 hour or 30 minutes. And then they explain, why am I giving you 5 stars out of 10? 7 stars out of 10. That's usually what happens. But today, I've noticed for someone who serves as a consultant in many organizations, it's usually purely just written report. And if you have any questions, that's the only time that you can ask for an optional meeting afterwards. Okay, so I'm looking at the chat box. Interesting. I get a lot of W from the participants. So let's talk about the pros and cons. Are these effective? So there are pros for written feedback, obviously. The first one is that because the discussion is documented and assumed to have a public audience. Remember, the beauty of something written is that you can pass on that written information to other people. So HR can read it, the boss of the manager can read it, other VPs or senior leaders who want to know more about you, they can also read it. Essentially, it's a public file. Why is this good? It's documented, therefore, the person who's writing it needs to be more responsible and needs to manage the expectations of others. Okay? I think the beauty of written documentation is that they're going to be more conscious of how they will choose their words versus when it's done privately face to face and it's not recorded. You may deny that you said X when you actually said Y. In written documentation, there is no way out. If you wrote it down, you contemplated about it. Okay? So that's a good thing about written feedback. Number two, I mentioned that this a while ago, words are chosen more carefully and also tactfully, which I think is good. You can also read and digest the concern at your own pace. So if you are the recipient of the feedback, you can read it, and if you did not understand it, you can see it, you can look at it again. You can repeat that over and over again until you finally understood what the person was meaning. So being able to understand and grasp the words of the person means that you don't need to react immediately if in case you find it offensive. You can read it again, calm down, and understand that you might have been misinterpreting what the person was saying. Okay? Finally, you have a documentation to hold on to. What I like about written documentation is if you're telling me that I only got a score of 7 out of 10 for communication skills, and I think I have been improving for the past 6 months, I can hold you as my boss accountable. That if I got 7 and I think I improved, I should deserve an 8. I should deserve a 9 because you're coming from a baseline. I want to highlight that this is very important because most of the time when we give feedback to people, it's all verbal. It's not recorded. Sometimes it's hard to remember it. And many times our memory fails us. Please remember, sometimes your memory is not going to be accurate over a period of years. But when you have something documented and written, you have something to go back to and say, I got a 7, I should be improving more. You also wrote here that I was not improving because of X, Y, and Z. I think I changed for the past 6 months. Why are you still giving me the same score? That's important. Remember, even if your boss is the one who's giving you the scores, they have to be held accountable for how they choose the scores. They have to be fair. They need to justify it. And number 3, it must be based on merit, not on personality or favoritism. Okay. Can I get an exclamation mark if we appreciate the value of written feedback? This is why if a company does not have a written way of giving feedback, I start seeing some red flags. It means that the company does not value feedback giving from the very start. Okay? I also want to recommend if you're doing a job interview, if you're about to jump to a new company, please find a way to ask this during the job interview and say, may I ask, in this organization, how do you evaluate the performance of your employees? Ask that from the HR. Because if they cannot answer how they evaluate the employees, it's a red flag. It means that likely you will not have a basis for your promotion. It means that they don't value rewarding people if they are doing something right. It also means that they are leaving too much power to the managers and the bosses on how they should take good care of their employees. If there are no evaluation standards, it means that the company does not have a universal way of treating its employees. That's important. Okay? Unfortunately, I only see most of these happening from multinational companies and large organizations. Okay? In cottage industries and family owned businesses, sometimes it's usually forgotten or it's usually not done at all. I also want to highlight, please take note, you may not have feedback giving activities in your company if you happen to be not a full time employee. Ideally, it's good to give feedback once in a while, but most of the time, these are only reserved for full time employees. Of course, I'd also like to think that a great leader, regardless if you have a full time or a part time employee, from time to time, you're supposed to give feedback so that they can keep on improving with their performance. Okay. What about the cons? What are the things that you have to look out for when it comes to a written feedback? So here are a few things. Number one, because you're writing it down and there is no face to represent the person saying it, sometimes it makes the discussion impersonal since the manager can get away from the awkward and painful conversation. So this is what I don't like. Some managers like to write it down because they cannot tell it to the face of their own people because they know that sometimes they can be unfair. Sometimes that they're supposed to be giving a higher score when they're giving less. And because you're giving them an opportunity to write it down, they think they don't need to justify it. Can I get an exclamation mark if you agree with that? So that for me is the downside of written feedback. It doesn't hold people accountable because the body language is absent, the ability to provoke the emotions, these things are absent when you talk to someone face to face. Number two, the absence of real-time conversation does not give the recipient an opportunity to explain or defend themselves. So what I don't like about a written feedback is, okay, you're telling me that I've done something wrong, but that's because you did not understand what happened in that story. So how can I defend myself? I am totally defenseless. If you're here in front of me right now, I can explain it to you, right? Of course, ideally, you're supposed to be talking to your manager if that issue happens. But what I don't like about written feedback is it makes the person, it's a one-way street. It makes the person a recipient, not an interaction in this case. Finally, number three, writing can be prone to misunderstanding. We all know that, right? I'll give an example. When you're in a relationship, a romantic relationship with someone, sometimes you think that your boyfriend or girlfriend is breaking up with you, but they're just ranting about their life. But that's because you're misunderstanding what they're typing. That is what happens in every written conversation. Sometimes you think that the person may be in a bad mood, but the person's not, right? It depends on how the person communicates or chooses their words. So written feedback is not the optimal way for doing that. Can I get a letter W again? Are we on the same page now for both the pros and the cons? So this is not to say that we are giving a blessing to written feedback. What I'm trying to say here is there are good sides that you can take advantage of for written feedback, and there are some bad sides that you have to watch out for. This is why ideally I would recommend if you're giving a written feedback, don't make the one-on-one discussion optional. Make it as a complementary activity on top of the written feedback. Okay? All right. Before we proceed, let's give away now some tickets. I'd like to give away 2 tickets for our upcoming webinar this November 20. That is this Saturday. For our webinar, Email Etiquette and Business Writing. It's an online workshop to improve ways of writing business reports, emails, and instant messages. So I have 2 schedules. November 20 is this Saturday. That's the weekend batch. And we also are offering a weekday batch, November 26 next week. For this specific event, the tickets I am going to give away are for November 20. Please take note of that. You cannot exchange this for November 26 because our slots are almost full. I just need to reserve that for a few more prizes. So this session, the prize is for November 20, Saturday, 1 o'clock to 2:30 p.m. If you guys are ready, I'm going to look at my Facebook now, just so I can see who are those who have shared this Facebook or LinkedIn webinar on your newsfeed. So remember, you'll only be eligible to be called out if you have shared this webinar on your newsfeed. Let's call out now. Let's see if there are any folks. All right. So let me call out my winner. My winner, ladies and gentlemen, the name is Laila Claire de Guzman. Laila Claire de Guzman. Congratulations, Laila. You just won a ticket to our upcoming webinar on November 20 this Saturday. Laila, how do you claim your prize? Please look at the scrolling marquee. You see that? The one that's moving? There is a link there that says winners claim your prize here. Please look at that. Try to catch it. And we need to get your email address so we can get to you the Zoom account. Okay. The second winner, ladies and gentlemen, because we have two winners here. The second winner, ladies and gentlemen, the name is Sir Eman Galliardo. Congratulations, Sir Eman Galliardo. Congratulations. You are the second winner for our email etiquette and business writing. Okay. Don't forget, claim your prize, copy the link into your browser so we can get your email addresses. Let's give an exclamation mark to our winners, please. Okay, very good. Thank you. Again, we're going to have one more contest later on. We're going to give away 500 pesos worth of gift certificate from Also Healthy Snacks. So make sure before that even happens, you have already shared this Facebook or LinkedIn webinar on your news feed. Okay, I want to highlight that. Okay, let's go to the second part. Before I do that, I want to give some more commercials. Please don't forget, next week, November 24 on a Wednesday, we are conducting this free webinar, part 6 of how to manage conflicts with colleagues and managers. So if you're up for understanding how to navigate the political world of corporate world, this is the session for you. We're going to talk about some case simulations and some stories from people who have sent us an email about their issues and challenges with people that they work with. And we're going to give you some advice. And we're also going to be crowdsourcing the responses from the participants. So please take a photo, take a screenshot, add this into your calendar. We will see you on Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. If you want, it will be great if you put that permanently in your calendar because our webinars happen every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. Okay? So let's go to the next story. Story number 2. John, in other countries and some startup companies where time zone difference among employees can be an issue, feedback are also given optionally as recorded video for managers. You know, the first time I heard about this was in 2018. I found it very weird. So I was telling some people who told me, why would you record your feedback when you can say it face to face to your colleagues? And a lot of my friends were telling me that's because a lot of companies today, their employees are scattered all around the world. So they can't do it on that same time zone. Plus, there are benefits if you record it rather than doing it face to face or virtually. So this type of giving feedback is not just a brainchild of the pandemic. It's been happening before the pandemic. Only a few companies, however, are doing it. But we want to assess, is it effective? What are the pros and cons of giving recorded video from managers? Okay. So here are some pros. Number 1, like written feedback, videos can be documented, can be saved, and they can be archived, which means you can be held accountable. So you have to make sure that you are doing it right. HR can see it. Your boss can see it. Other people who want to know more about how you rate and evaluate your people can also see it. Okay? There is always accountability when there is always proof in this case. Number 2, the other beauty of recorded videos is that it can help manage confrontations among employees who may not be able to see each other, pun intended, eye to eye. So meaning, for example, if two people are in really bad conflicts and it comes to a point wherein pitting them against each other might not be good emotions-wise, sending a recorded video can be the first step to finally making peace and to finally sharing first your thoughts about the other person rather than rejecting them because you just simply can't see them physically. Okay? By the way, I forgot to ask this. Can I get the letter V in the chat box? Do you know any company, organization, or a friend who has engaged in giving feedback via a recorded video? Could you please give me a letter V? So I won't be surprised if there is no one in the chat box who types it because it remains to be rare, but it is an up and coming technique. Some companies are starting to recognize this as well. Okay, so I'm looking at the chat box. Okay, no letter V's yet. That's fine. Not surprised again. But I just want you to remember this can be a potential, an in thing in the future. In the same way that job interviews in the past were live. Now I've been seeing a lot of companies, when they ask for a job interview, they also ask the candidate to submit a recorded video explaining and introducing them to the recruiter. So things have changed. So if you do recorded introduction for job interviews, I'm not surprised if this is going to be the same thing that will happen for giving feedback. So I'm looking at the chat box. Okay, now I'm seeing a handful of people typing letter V in the chat box. The number three good thing about it is this. Time zone restrictions may affect the delivery of the feedback. So recording the video allows the person to do it in their optimal mood. So look at this example. Let's say you happen to be 15 hours away. You're from Brazil or California. And usually time zone is 15 hours away. That means 8 p.m. is around 8, the range of 8 a.m. for the other person, or 10 p.m. or 10 a.m. in that case. So you might not be in your best mood if you want to record something. And that can affect, you might not be in your best mood to do a live call with someone. And that might affect the way you deliver the feedback. If that is the case, find a better timing. Usually it happens in the morning when you still have a lot of energy. Usually it happens when you're still able to muster some confidence, right? So if timing is an issue, do it at a time when you are in a good mood and in a good position. Recorded videos allow people to do that. Similarly, I'm going to flip the coin. Sometimes if you are listening to someone's feedback about you at 11 p.m., do you think you're going to be receiving that feedback in the best light? Maybe not. You're already sleepy and the other person is jumpy. Okay? So you're not matching the right moods. So recorded videos can be a good way to manage that concern. Number 4, those who record are more critical with their choice of words. So remember, if you're recording a video, you can edit it. So if you think that you said the wrong word that might be offensive, you can take that out, do a recording again and repeat it. And this time, you can get to choose the right words. So it can capture the best emotions. Sometimes when we are at the cusp of explaining something to someone, we get carried away with our feelings to the point that we can hurt someone's feelings. So that happens during live interaction. In recorded videos, you get to filter the emotions that do not belong in a professional discussion. Can I get an exclamation mark? Do we appreciate the difference between, do we appreciate the pros of recorded video? The more I got to learn and see, I was able to see some examples, by the way. I hope I can show you some, but obviously they're very confidential. But when I saw some recorded videos of people giving feedback, I started saying, this has potential. I can appreciate why some people are starting to do recorded videos as well. Okay. The other thing I'd like to also add, when your company requires to give recorded video, they give you some segments, meaning you have to answer 5 questions, and they are required. Required in a sense that it mitigates you missing it out. So that means there is no excuse for a manager not to explain portion 1, portion 2, portion 3. That's also the other advantage of recorded videos. Now, the other thing I'd like to add, the last part, those who are receiving a recorded video, if they become defensive or they become, they have a bad reaction about the things that are told about them, the good thing about it is they don't need to react. All right? Sometimes in the heated conversation, when we are so emotional, we don't react the right way, and it takes away the momentum of the discussion. So when you are finally watching a recorded video, the good thing is you watch it, you get emotional, you can calm yourself down, right? You give yourself some space and some time to process and reflect what was just said. And then you can reply later on at a better time and also at a better mood. Have you ever been in situations wherein you regretted how you responded? I'm guilty of that. That's why these days, whenever I enter a conflict with someone, instead of fighting back to the person, I just shut up and I say, I need some fresh air. I'll get back to you in a few hours or a few minutes. So I need to calm myself down. And many times, those are the moments when I say to myself, the good thing is that I was able to calm myself, because I don't think I think I will regret the words that I say if ever I didn't so. Okay. Now, what are some cons? And here's the last part of our session. What are the bad sides of doing a recorded video for remote feedback giving? So, a few things. Number one, as usual, it makes the discussion impersonal, just like writing, because the manager can get away from the awkward or painful conversation. When you know that you will not be rebutted, when you know that the person will not react to you real time, sometimes it makes you more brave or negligent of what you're going to say. Okay? Because you know that they will not have an opportunity to get back to you afterwards immediately. Number two, it can breed lack of accountability, since the giver of the feedback will not be scrutinized or questioned by the recipient, especially when the video is a take it as is arrangement. So I want to highlight this. Some companies, when they ask their employees to give recorded video, you take it as is. You can't rebut. You can schedule an optional meeting, but it's final. Okay, so I'm not a big fan of that, because performance evaluation are supposed to be a constructive activity. It is not a fixed activity wherein if I decide X, it's permanently X. The boss is not the end all be all. Even if they are high and mighty, they do not decide permanently and ultimately what happens to their people. Okay. Finally, number three, the absence of real-time conversation, just like in written documentation a while ago, doesn't give the feedback giver or the recipient an opportunity to explain or also defend themselves. So you notice a lot of things are similar to written documentation. Okay? The only difference with a recorded video is that you get to see the body language. You get to see the eyes. You get to listen to the tone, the pitch, the timbre, the prosody. If you happen to attend our Boost Your Confidence webinar, you'll be familiar about those things. And they enrich the discussion. So a recorded video is like a richer version of the written feedback. The only difference is you're not giving me an opportunity to respond to you afterwards. So that can be unfair for the employee as well. So my recommendation is, for those who are opting this style, allow recorded feedback, but enable a required debriefing afterwards. So the debriefing allows the person to jot down how he felt, jot down what are the points of improvement and what I think I'd like to dispute if ever there are points of being disputed. Okay. Can I get a letter V again in the chat box? Do we get to appreciate the pros and the cons? And do we also get to appreciate the similarities and the differences between written and also recorded feedback? Okay. Very good. So this is an evolving process. I am not going to be surprised in the future, because I'm seeing this in some BPO companies. I've started to see some managers giving, for example, stars or hearts on a weekly basis to their employees. I've seen some companies wherein, in a remote setting, their managers give them feedback on a weekly basis as a one sentence or one paragraph. Okay? Just like any test paper, like an essay. You know how essays work, right? When our teachers check our essays, they give comments line by line. That can be a possibility in the future in this case for our folks. Okay? Before we end our session and before we give away our last prize from Osh, I'd like to remind you, please do not forget, November 24th, that is next week, How to Manage Conflicts with Colleagues and Managers, Part 6. Please save that in your calendar. We'll be very happy to have you on board next week. Okay? Don't also forget, please listen tonight. We'll be very happy to have you listening to our podcast. It's now available. This is From Grit to Great, courtesy of our producers from Shock in Malaysia. Please scan the QR code and copy the link into your browser. The entire podcast is in English, FYI, because our audience spans across different countries. So it's a very fun and exciting, it's a very millennial conversation. You'll be able to see the personal side of me because I get to talk to my brother at the same time, and because I'm very obsessed about backing it up by studies, statistics, and numbers. Whenever we talk about careers, we always mention the psychological studies and news reports from other media outfits. So We promise it's going to be a very enriching and loaded podcast for the next few episodes. The episodes always come out every Wednesday of the week. So the first episode drops today. Okay, so let's end the session now. Let's give away our last prize, 500 pesos worth of freebies from our sponsor, and that is Oh So Healthy. Mango is my favorite flavor. If you have an opportunity, grab those. You can also buy this, by the way, in a lot of stores. I see them in Starbucks. I see them sometimes in Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf. I see them also in healthy options, Rustans, and some selected groceries. So I'm going to give away now the prize. Make sure that you have shared this webinar on your news feed. If you haven't, I'm giving you a few seconds now to do that. And if you have done it, please make sure you type in the chat box so we can see your names. Okay, so my winner, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna scroll up and down randomly so I get to see the participants. My winner, ladies and gentlemen, the name is JP Gabato. JP Gabato, congratulations, Mr. JP Gabato. You just won 500 pesos worth of freebies from Osh. Mr. JP, how do you claim your prize? Very simple. Look at the email address in front of you. That is the green screen. I hope you see that now. That is MKTG or marketing at I'mOhSoHealthy.com. Please take a photo of the screen or take a screenshot from your smartphone or laptop. Copy that email address and indicate that you are claiming 500 pesos worth of freebies. Okay? For those who haven't won yet, we hope you get to win in our next round. We always do this every Wednesday, 5 to 6 p.m. So congratulations, JP. In the meantime, I'm going to be leaving you behind now with our QR codes. If you'd like to watch our past webinars, you can do that by scanning the QR code or copying the link into your browser. If you'd like to claim an optional certificate, you can also claim by scanning the QR code or copying the link into your browser. So I'm waiting for some questions now from our participants. If there are none, I'm going to leave you behind, but finally we have one. Okay. I was about to say, I hope there are no questions so I can leave because I have to jump for my gym. But we have a question now. So, and don't worry, I love the question. So we're taking this in. So I have a question now from LinkedIn. And the question now is this. So this is a question from Aldrin. Aldrin is asking, John, what about if the company does not have any structured feedback sessions? Meaning, let me just sort out the question. Let me simplify the sentence. Meaning, the managers give feedback from time to time, but there are no annual evaluation. What do you think about these companies? So this is a matter of philosophy. I am not here to say that just because you don't have an annual feedback session does not mean that you are the worst of the companies. Because I have seen some companies thrive even if they don't have that. Right? A lot of manufacturing companies, their employees fall under this category. They don't have annual evaluation sessions, but they do have quarterly or casual conversations with their boss. Now, because it's a school of thought and because it's a philosophy, I'd like to ask you, do you feel comfortable? And are you okay that you don't get the feedback that you want because it's not part of the company's culture? Okay? If you're uncomfortable with that, you might want to ask that from your manager, or traditionally, the HR is supposed to be answering that question because it's part of the structure of the company. Just be careful about it because you don't want to sound like you are challenging authority as if you're questioning the structure of the company. Okay? So make it more like, may I ask? So my tone will be like this. You know, when I was in company X or in company Y, we were doing this. And it seems like it's a best practice that other companies may be doing. And I also appreciate it because of X and Y. May I ask why in our organization, it's not something that we usually do? So ask it with an inquisitive tone, a curious tone, rather than an accusing tone that makes it look like you're condescending in this case. Okay? And then if you get the answer, try to ask yourself, are you comfortable with that? Are you okay with that? Do you see yourself in the next 5 years thriving in the company if there are no structured feedback sessions? I'll be biased to say I won't be comfortable with that because even performing well, there are no proper metrics to be used. But some employees are fine with that. Okay, so I'm not here to impose. I will say that there are a lot of anecdotes that prove that if metrics are used, employees are more responsible and accountable with their actions. So if that works for you, by all means go. Stay in the company and continue thriving. But if not, I don't think that it's sustainable for you to stay the longest, because if you're gunning for a promotion, you're gunning for a higher position, you want to be in a company that secures you because it's based on fair merit that is standardized by the organization. Okay? All right. I'm looking at the chat box right now. I don't have questions left. So I'm going to leave you guys behind. I hope you enjoy your Wednesday evening. In the meantime, stay safe, take care of someone that you love, and do not forget, always continue being critical with your environment. I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.